Why are there so many romances this season? Why are there so many romances this season?
You serious?
Like I said before, Winter 2023 was one of the biggest seasons for the romance genre, and despite everything that I watched, I didn't even watch all the romances of that season. Spring 2023 comes along and gives us just as many romance anime, even without including Kubo. Today, I want to talk about two romance anime that arguably carried the spring season, one being a little bit underrated, and one everybody seemed to like. However, both series have their respective motives and are two undeniable mature stories in the romance genre. As a warning, both these series I will be talking about will have spoilers, especially the second anime. I'll also say the timestamp for the first anime, but will not give any for the second anime as I don't find it particularly that spoiler heavy. But if you don't want any spoilers, please look at the description for when they appear. Insomniacs After School had the unlucky opportunity of starting its broadcast really late, meaning the series ended almost into the summer season. However, this of course doesn't dictate how well the show would do. With the art style similar to that of March Comes In Like a Lion, Insomniacs After School should have had a better uprising because of it, but didn't pay off as some shots in the show feel a little out of pocket. The show is about Ganta and Magari, who both suffer from insomnia, preventing them from being able to sleep in the night due to their hypersensitivities, which makes them want to sleep during the day. Initially, Ganta believed that no one would be able to help with this issue, as he kept it to himself. However, when he finds Marguerite in the astronomy building of the top floor of the school, sleeping herself, Ganta realizes that Marguerite also has the issue, and the two blossom a new story together. Not only do they try their best to help out each other's insomnia, but they also try to aspire to become better people. So they grow to be like one another, as Ganta's life with astronomy with his family and Marguerite's cheerfulness are some aspects that they like about one another. This romance story isn't necessarily new, as we have seen things like Awanisha Pancreas, and while it isn't as deep as it thrives off later in the story as its own separate story. One thing that most people tell me about watching this show is that this show has heavy vibes. It makes you want to look at the setting, its characters, and how deep it can go with its amazing, detailed scenes of the night sky. However, I would argue that you cannot watch this show just for the sake of vibes. It's a show that takes maturity to a better level compared to most other romance anime, and is honestly one of the more relatable shows that people can have. It's a story of two awkward high schoolers who try to find a new passion throughout high school, as they had never had the chance to. There's a point in time where the two get found out about their insomnias, and eventually take the bet of making an astronomy club, something that the school has given up for a very long time. If they don't submit work for astronomy, or make use of the room that they sleep in, they can no longer keep the room for themselves to do work in. This motivates both the characters to give themselves another chance, a feeling of no regret, and especially in Ganta's case, a chance for himself to relive the childhood he wanted to live in. The settings are some of the most beautiful scenes that I've seen in anime, no matter what anyone says about the art style. It mesmerizes you into thinking that while we don't necessarily live in a special world, we can make the moment special ourselves. It's beautiful, and that's what we really need in a place where there can be moments of chaos. Once we are introduced to the backstories of our main duo, it becomes much more meaningful as to why they are so passionate for the things they do. This is the first time they have ever had so much freedom, and because they finally found the passion to do something interesting, they grow to like one another and themselves. No bullcrap needed, no fan service, just a relatable and mature story. Insomniacs After School is one of the stories that anime should go in terms of direction. It doesn't need to have a complex world just for the story to be interesting. It can have some weird characters in it, but the show tells us that the character development that the duo has is one of the best that I've seen from this year. Romance doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be complex or have the mind games of something like Kaguya-sama. It can just be its own self. As the year goes by, more and more people are most likely going to forget the show as a romance story that only goes by because of its setting. And let me tell you, I'm gonna be right. You easily were captivated not by its storytelling, but by the setting. It's not wrong, but that isn't what the full package of what the show brings to the table. Ganta and Marguerite's relationship is one of the better ones in the romance genre. They actually do normal couple stuff, and while most people are tired of seeing people hand-holding near the end of an anime season, their relationship isn't just that. They have fun with one another, aspire to be a part of themselves, find new passions with one another, and sync up well with each other. If you don't want to hear about Marguerite's backstory, please skip to this time frame, as this part of the section will contain spoilers. Marguerite tells Ganta that she herself has had heart problems for her entire life, being so to the fact that her heart can stop at any moment in time. The only way that her heart has been normal recently, due to her insomnia, was listening to the sound of Ganta's heart while she is sleeping. Ganta doesn't just take this information that Marguerite has just given to him and starts collapsing or begins questioning a lot of things. He takes it up as a person, consumes what she has just told him, and begins to help Marguerite as much as possible to become the best person for her. This is the type of maturity that the show tells us. It's not about a moment of time that can happen in the future, but that the present is what really matters. Ganta wants to become a person that Marguerite will like, and Marguerite will do the same for him. They can help each other to understand the difficulties of insomnia, other problems, and even after this point, this information isn't even the main plot of the series. The show continues with the goal of the relationship to continue to be like one another, which is what drives the show in the first place. This show is what I wanted some stories to be, and damn, this year would have been really good if we just had this show in the spring. The Dangers in My Heart was one of the anime that I watched weekly, and despite its negatively reviewed episodes at the beginning of spring, I continued to watch it as I was rather intrigued as to where the story was going. And if I'm gonna say one thing, it's that the first 3 episodes had a lot of meaning to it. This was arguably also one of the best romance stories that we have seen this year, and while it had a bit of a rough start, I can confidently say that I will agree with this statement. The Dangers in My Heart is about 2 middle schoolers. Yes, they are middle schoolers. People say this is a high school, but misinterpret it as a high school show, who are polar opposites of one another. Ishikawa is our main protag, who has a very sus trait. The feeling of trying to murder people while reading a book about murdering, and yeah, it sounds like this guy has issues. On the other hand, we have Yamada, who is an actual model for her company, and one of the most popular kids in the entire school to the point where pretty much everyone knows her. It is a classic story of a nobody knows, and a girl everyone knows, and begins to like one another. The reason why nobody liked the story was because of Ishikawa. He literally sounds like an edgelord, and shouldn't be a protagonist that anyone likes. Except we have Kage from Eminence in the shot. So Ishikawa begins as an introvert who is really cut from his entire class. However, he often goes to the library as he works as a facilitator for the school's library. There he finds Yamada sitting on the chair in the library that has a no eating sign and straight up eating. Ishikawa is stunned to find Yamada sitting there and eating like a toddler. He had the expectations that Yamada was a perfect person, but ultimately found a side to her that no one seemed to know that she was doing by herself. Her friends know that she was eating a lot, but not the locations of where she was going. Ishikawa finds this intriguing and wants to get to know Yamada a bit more. One day, Yamada is hit by a basketball on the nose because she was careless. Ishikawa was a bit surprised to see how Yamada was a bit clumsy, and while he showed this feeling, it goes away instantly as everyone starts to surround her as she is bleeding. She is taken to the nurse, and while she is calling to her mom, there's another side that Ishikawa sees that no one else sees about her emotional state. She starts crying because she had made a promise to her mom about modeling the next day. Her mom is super worried, and because of the basketball incident, her work has stopped for the next few days. Not only does this show that Yamada is super passionate about modeling, but she also takes her job very seriously, and she wants to help out her family by doing so. Ishikawa himself realizes this while listening to Yamada, and once he realizes it, he begins to cry. He doesn't understand why he's crying. He sits in, takes it in, and keeps listening to Yamada as a person. This is the moment that Ishikawa begins to realize his feelings for Yamada, and rather than just a story about imagining him killing her, his feelings of love and protectiveness of Yamada was really what he wanted the entire time. This is something that Ishikawa does later, and it drives his side of the story. Ishikawa might be the protagonist that everyone hates in the beginning, but then absolutely loves his character by the end of the season, because he almost flips a full 180 degrees in how he acts by the end of the season. Ishikawa was a person who didn't necessarily have a reality. After all, he still is a middle schooler who is trying to find out what he likes as a person. As he continually becomes closer to Yamada, he realizes that Yamada is again not the perfect know-it-all that she looks like. She is a human being who honestly might be even less than Ishikawa at times, to the point where there are so many times Ishikawa has to save her from a certain situations, like getting hit on uncomfortably by some of their classmates. She is just a regular person in the same school as him. Ishikawa pushes him to interact with Yamada at times that feels irregular of him to do so. He wants to change himself, clear his mind of the murder in his head, and hope he can help Yamada as much as possible, even if it can be a pain at times. He pushes himself almost to the point where he gets really sick just by helping Yamada, which is a really sweet moment for him. More importantly, he was a person who struggled to get by school. He would itch to leave school, be alone, or do nothing to help the people around him. However, he realizes that his relationship isn't also one about love, but it's about friends as well. Throughout the entire series, he hasn't had a single good relationship with someone else. He is actually intelligent, being one of the smartest people in the class despite his looks. However, his personality drives everyone away from him, and Yamada was the first stepping stone into a good relationship. Rather than wanting to stay away from everyone, his first relationship with Yamada allows him to lean towards other people, especially Yamada. Yamada is at one point scared of Ishikawa because he starts to stay away from her again, but is eventually changed once he sees that his relationship with Yamada is a real one. His obsession with the murder books wasn't just that he was interested in them. He wanted a place to belong. He can't keep going on looking at those books again if he wants to fit in with people. He has to change, and this is what I find mature about the show. Ishikawa can change, and Yamada herself also realizes why Ishikawa felt odd at times. He just didn't feel confident about himself as a person, and she begins to promise to herself to help Ishikawa as well. Both of them are flawed in unexpected ways, and as they begin to cherish their relationship, it becomes way more wholesome than you expect it to be. The music in The Dangers of My Heart was one of the best as well, coming from Kensuke Yoshio, who did work on A Silent Voice. The episodes are gleaming with wholesomeness and feel also mature at the same time. The end of an episode with clips of the anime episode's name, as well as scenes just you find unexpected, would appear, ending The Dangers of My Heart as one of the best ways to end off your week. Both of these stories have a lot more maturity compared to other romance shows, having relatable experiences as to what people should do and how people can act in real life. The characters strive to be like one another, or change to become better people, and I can give the utmost respect to these shows for telling us this. It's shows like these that I want to see more of, and hopefully to see in the future, as there's enough content for a second season of Insomniacs After School, and when The Dangers in My Heart Season 2 comes back in winter 2024.